Keanu Reeves just paid for a stranger's groceries, and his reason will leave you speechless. It's not about the money or the fame. It's about something much deeper. In this video, we'll reveal the painful memory from Keanu's past that drove him to this incredible act of kindness. Get ready for a story that will change the way you see this Hollywood star forever. The bustling supermarket was a sea of activity, shoppers weaving through aisles with carts full of groceries. Among them, Keanu Reeves stood out. Not because he was trying to, but because of who he was. Dressed simply in jeans and a dark jacket, the Hollywood star known for his kindness, as much as his acting, pushed a small cart down the produce aisle. As Keanu rounded the corner, he saw a young mother, her face pinched with worry, juggling a fussy baby while reaching for items on the shelves. Her movements were frantic, her eyes darting between her child and the groceries. Keanu felt a pang of empathy, remembering times in his own life when he had felt overwhelmed and alone. The mother made her way to the checkout line, her cart piled high with essentials. As the cashier began scanning, Keanu noticed the woman's nervous glances at the mounting total. When it came time to pay, she produced a worn credit card with shaking hands. The card reader beeped angrily. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the cashier said awkwardly. "It seems your card has been declined." The young mother's face flushed crimson, her eyes wide with panic. I don't understand," she stammered. "There should be enough. Can we try again?" As the cashier attempted to run the card once more, Keanu felt a familiar ache in his chest. He remembered his own mother's struggles, the embarrassment and helplessness flooding back in a wave of emotion. The card declined again, and the cashier began removing items from the woman's cart. "I'm so sorry," the mother whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. Her baby, sensing the distress, wailed louder. Keanu's heart raced as he watched the scene unfold. He wanted to help but hesitated. Would his intervention be seen as pity? As he wrestled with his thoughts, he saw the mother's shoulders slump in defeat. In that moment, Keanu made a decision. He stepped forward, his voice quiet but firm. "Excuse me," he said, addressing both the cashier and the young mother. "I'd like to pay for these groceries, please." The cashier's eyes widened in recognition. The young mother looked up, confusion giving way to shock. "Mr. Reeves?" she gasped. Keanu smiled gently, handing his card to the cashier. "Please don't worry about it. I'd be honored to help." The mother's eyes filled with fresh tears, but this time accompanied by a trembling smile. I don't know what to say," she managed, bouncing her now quieting baby. "Thank you so much." As the transaction completed, Keanu helped gather her bags. He leaned in, speaking softly. "I know what it's like to struggle. My mom raised me and my sister on her own, and there were times when things were really tough. But kindness from strangers made all the difference." The woman nodded, understanding and gratitude shining in her eyes. As Keanu stepped back, he noticed other shoppers watching in awe, some with phones out. But for Keanu, this wasn't about publicity or being seen as a hero. It was about human connection, about easing someone's burden, if only for a moment. Keanu's voice was barely above a whisper as he spoke to the cashier. The young mother, her face flushed with embarrassment, tried to refuse his help. But Keanu gently insisted, his kind eyes meeting hers with a warmth that seemed to melt away her hesitation. As the transaction unfolded, the cashier began to ring up the items. The steady beep of the scanner punctuated the hushed atmosphere. Diapers, formula, and other essentials made their way into bags. With each item, the mother's shoulders seemed to relax just a little more. As Keanu handed over his credit card, the mother's voice trembled with emotion. "Why?" she asked, her eyes searching his face. "Why would you do this for a complete stranger?" Keanu paused, his hand hovering over the card reader. A shadow of sadness crossed his face, and for a moment, he seemed lost in thought. It was as if her question had opened a door to his past. Taking a deep breath, Keanu turned to face the young mother fully. His voice was soft but steady as he began to speak. "When I was young," he said, "my father left us. My mom, she worked so hard to keep a roof over our heads and food on the table." The mother listened intently, her eyes wide with surprise and empathy. Keanu continued, his words coming slowly as if each one carried the weight of his past. "There were times when we didn't know where our next meal would come from. I remember the look in my mom's eyes when she had to choose between paying the electric bill and buying groceries. One day," Keanu went on, his voice growing stronger, "a stranger helped us. Just like this. No questions asked, no expectations. That act of kindness, It changed everything for us. It gave us hope when we needed it most. Tears began to stream down the young mother's face as she listened. Keanu reached out and gently squeezed her shoulder, a gesture of solidarity and understanding. I promised myself that if I ever had the means, I would pay that kindness forward, Keanu explained, because I know how much it can mean, how it can be the difference between despair and hope. The mother nodded, unable to speak through her tears. Her baby, sensing the emotion in the air, let out a soft coo. Keanu smiled at the child, then turned back to the mother. "You're doing an incredible job," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "Being a single parent is the hardest job in the world. My mom taught me that. And sometimes we all need a little help." The cashier handed Keanu the receipt. He tucked it into his pocket without a glance, his attention still fully on the young mother. "Thank you," the mother finally managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. "You have no idea what this means to me." Keanu shook his head gently. "I think I do," he replied with a small smile. "And that's why I had to help. We're all in this together, you know?" As Keanu helped load the groceries into the mother's cart, he couldn't help but think about the ripple effect of kindness. This small act would spread outward, touching lives in ways he might never see. And in that moment, he knew that this was the true power of generosity, not just in the immediate relief it brought, but in the hope it sparked for a better tomorrow. The gentle applause faded, but the air remained thick with emotion. Keanu turned back to the young mother, his eyes betraying a pain from long ago. The bustling store fell silent as everyone strained to hear what the Hollywood star would say next. Keanu's voice grew softer, barely above a whisper. He began to share a story from his childhood, one he rarely spoke about. The young mother leaned in, her eyes wide with curiosity and concern. "There was a winter," Keanu began, his voice trembling slightly, "when the heating in our apartment broke down. My mom couldn't afford to fix it right away. We huddled together under blankets, trying to stay warm." The store remained eerily quiet, hanging on his every word. Keanu's eyes glazed over as he recalled the shame and fear he felt as a child. "I remember going to school in clothes that didn't fit, shoes with holes in them. Kids can be cruel, you know? I felt so small, so worthless." The young mother nodded, understanding dawning in her eyes. She clutched her baby closer, as if shielding the child from the pain in Keanu's words. "One day I was at the grocery store with my mom. We had a cart full of the cheapest foods we could find, but when we got to the checkout," Keanu's voice broke, and he paused, taking a deep breath. The tension in the store was palpable. "We didn't have enough money. My mom started putting things back, item by item. I could see the tears in her eyes, the shame on her face. And then," Keanu's face softened, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "A stranger behind us in line stepped forward. Without a word, he paid for our groceries." The young mother gasped softly, her eyes widening in recognition. Keanu nodded, acknowledging the parallel between his story and their current situation. "That man changed everything for us that day. It was about hope, about knowing that there are good people in the world who care." Keanu's voice grew stronger. "After that day, I promised myself that if I ever had the means, I would do the same for others, because I know what it's like to feel helpless, to feel like you're drowning and no one can see you struggling." The actor's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "That stranger's kindness showed me that we're all connected. That one small act can ripple out and touch so many lives. It's why I feel compelled to pay it forward whenever I can." The young mother reached out, squeezing Keanu's hand in gratitude. Her gesture spoke volumes, conveying a shared understanding of struggle and hope. Keanu smiled at her, a genuine warm smile that lit up his entire face. "You see," Keanu continued, addressing everyone in the store, "kindness is a choice we make every day. It's about seeing someone in need and choosing to help, even in the smallest way." He turned back to the young mother, his voice filled with compassion. "What you're going through right now, it's temporary. Trust me, it is. And someday, when you're in a better place, you'll have the chance to help someone else. That's how we create a chain of kindness that can change the world." The store erupted in applause once more, louder this time. People wiped tears from their eyes, moved by Keanu's words and the raw emotion of the moment. The young mother hugged Keanu tightly, whispering words of thanks that only he could hear. As the emotional embrace ended, a soft murmur rippled through the crowd. What happened next would transform this private moment into a viral sensation, leaving Keanu stunned. How would the actor react when he realized his act of kindness was about to reach millions? The whispers grew louder as people recognized the Hollywood star. Phones emerged, cameras trained on Keanu and the young mother. The quiet grocery store had become an unexpected stage, with everyone eager to capture the moment. Keanu, still focused on the mother, seemed oblivious to the attention. His compassionate gaze never left her face as he turned to the cashier. "What's the total for everything?" he asked calmly. The cashier hesitated, then announced the sum. Gasps echoed through the store. The amount was staggering, a stark representation of the true cost of raising a child. Keanu didn't flinch. He reached for his wallet, pulling out a sleek black credit card. The young mother, eyes wide with disbelief, made one last attempt to refuse. "Please," she whispered, "you don't have to do this." Keanu's response was gentle but firm. "I want to. Let me do this for you." His words carried through the now silent store, everyone holding their breath. As Keanu handed his card to the cashier, tension filled the air. The beep of the card reader, that momentary pause, held the promise of hope. Seconds felt like hours. Then the familiar sound of approval rang out and a collective sigh of relief swept through the onlookers. The burden lifted from the young mother's shoulders was almost visible. Her posture straightened, a genuine smile spreading across her face. The relief in her eyes was unmistakable. Applause erupted, startling Keanu and the mother. They looked around, suddenly aware of their audience. Keanu's face flushed slightly, unused to attention for his everyday kindness. As they exchanged glances, a silent understanding passed between them. Inspired by Keanu's generosity, other shoppers approached the cashier, offering to pay for the groceries of those behind them. The ripple effect of kindness spread, transforming a simple grocery run into a community event. The store manager, moved by the scene, announced over the intercom that the store would match Keanu's donation to help other struggling families. This declaration was met with even louder cheers. Strangers hugged, sharing in the joy of the moment. Amidst the commotion, Keanu gently guided the young mother towards the exit, helping her with her bags. He leaned in, whispering words that brought fresh tears to her eyes, tears of gratitude and hope. At the door, Keanu turned back to face the crowd. The store fell silent. Instead of speaking, he simply placed his hand over his heart and bowed slightly. This humble gesture spoke volumes, conveying his appreciation and belief in the power of kindness. With that, Keanu stepped out into the sunlight, leaving behind a store full of people forever changed. The young mother watched him go, clutching her groceries close, her life touched in a way she would never forget. As the applause faded, Keanu turned to the young mother. His warm eyes met hers, the bustling store fading into the background. "I'm Keanu," he said softly, extending his hand. "What's your name?" The woman hesitated, clutching her baby closer. "I'm Sarah," she whispered. Keanu smiled encouragingly. "Sarah, what brought you here today?" Sarah's lip trembled as she took a deep breath. "I lost my job 3 months ago. I've been trying to find work, but it's not easy with a baby. Today," she gestured helplessly at the groceries. Keanu listened intently, his face mirroring her pain. "Thank you for sharing that. I know it's not easy to open up." Sarah managed a small smile. "After what you did, you're not exactly a stranger anymore." Keanu's expression grew serious. "Sarah, what you're going through is temporary. You're stronger than you realize." "How can you be so sure?" Sarah asked, surprised. "My mother faced similar challenges. She never gave up. And neither will you." Sarah stood straighter, drawing strength from his words. "I want to believe that," she said, glancing at her sleeping baby. Keanu nodded. "You're not alone. There are resources that can help." "Resources? Organizations that help single parents? Job training, childcare assistance, support groups?" As he spoke, hope replaced the hopelessness in Sarah's eyes. "I didn't know about any of that," she admitted. "Many don't, but reaching out for help is a sign of strength, not weakness." "Where do I start?" Sarah asked, her voice stronger. Keanu pulled out his phone. "Let me give you some contact information. There's a great organization I've worked with before." As he shared the details, Sarah felt a glimmer of hope for the first time in months. "Thank you," she said gratefully, "for listening and caring." Keanu shook his head. "We're all in this together. Sometimes we need help, sometimes we offer it. That's how we make the world better, one interaction at a time." Sarah smiled, this time reaching her eyes. She looked at her baby, then back at Keanu. "I'm going to make it," she said with determination. For both of us. Keanu nodded, his eyes shining with pride. I have no doubt about that, Sarah. No doubt at all. As Sarah's newfound determination settled in, a commotion near the parking lot caught their attention. Keanu and Sarah looked up to see a small crowd of shoppers approaching, their faces lit with excitement. Word had spread quickly about the Hollywood star's act of kindness. Sarah's eyes widened, overwhelmed by the sudden attention. Keanu noticed her discomfort immediately. He gently placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder and stepped forward to address the crowd. Hey everyone, Keanu said, his voice calm but firm. I appreciate your kindness, but let's give Sarah some space, okay? She's had quite a day. The crowd murmured in understanding. One woman called out, Keanu, can we help too? Keanu smiled warmly. That's generous of you. The best way to help is to carry this spirit of kindness with you. Maybe next time you're in line, pay for someone else's coffee or groceries. That's how we keep the chain going. As the crowd dispersed, Sarah turned to Keanu, her eyes brimming with gratitude. Thank you for everything. I don't know how I can ever repay you. Keanu shook his head gently. No thanks necessary, Sarah. This is what we're all here for, to help each other out when times get tough. They reached Sarah's car, a well-worn sedan with a car seat visible in the back, and began loading the groceries. Keanu noticed the tension in Sarah's shoulders start to ease. You know, Keanu said, I've been thinking about something my mom used to say. She always told me that kindness is like a boomerang. It always comes back to you, often when you least expect it. Sarah paused, a carton of milk in her hands. What do you mean? Keanu leaned against the car, his eyes distant with memory. When I was 12, we were really struggling. Out of nowhere, our neighbor brought us a homemade lasagna. It wasn't much, but it meant everything to us at that moment. Sarah nodded, understanding washing over her face. It's the little things that can make such a big difference, isn't it? Exactly, Keanu agreed. Years later, I found out that Lady's grandson was trying to break into the industry. I was able to help him get an audition. He landed a small role that kick-started his career. Sarah's eyes widened. So the kindness really did come back around. Keanu nodded, smiling. That's the thing about kindness, Sarah. It creates ripples we can't always see or predict. But trust me, they're there. And sometimes, those ripples turn into waves that can change lives. As they finished loading the groceries, Sarah turned to face Keanu. I want you to know that I'm going to pay this forward. I don't know how yet, but I promise I will. Keanu's eyes crinkled with warmth. I believe you, Sarah. And here's a little secret. It doesn't have to be anything big. Sometimes the most powerful acts of kindness are the ones that seem small at the time. A smile to a stranger, holding the door open for someone, or just listening when someone needs to talk. Those moments add up, and they can change the world, one person at a time. Sarah nodded, her eyes shining with a new light. This encounter had touched her deeply, far beyond the material help she'd received. As Sarah's eyes shone with newfound hope, Keanu's hand moved towards his pocket. What he pulled out next would leave her breathless and change her life forever. Keanu retrieved a small, folded piece of paper and a sleek pen. Sarah watched intently, her heart racing with anticipation. The bustling grocery store faded into the background as Keanu unfolded the paper and began to write. His eyes held a flicker of determination and compassion that made Sarah's heart skip a beat. For a moment, Keanu paused, tapping the pen against his chin. A memory flashed through his mind, a time when he too had felt lost and alone, wishing for someone to reach out. With renewed purpose, Keanu finished writing and folded the paper with precise movements. He turned to face Sarah fully, his eyes locking with hers. Sarah, Keanu said, his voice warm and sincere, I want you to have this. Sarah took the paper with trembling fingers. It felt warm from Keanu's hand, weighted with promise and possibility. What is it? She asked, barely above a whisper. Keanu's smile widened, his eyes crinkling at the corners. It's my personal contact information, he revealed. My private number and email. I want you to reach out if you ever need help again. Day or night, doesn't matter. I mean it. Sarah stared at the folded paper, unable to believe what she was hearing. This incredible human being was offering her a lifeline that extended far beyond their chance encounter. But why? Sarah managed to ask, her voice thick with emotion. Keanu's expression softened. Because no one should face their struggles alone, he said simply. We're all in this together, Sarah. Sometimes, Knowing there's someone who cares can make all the difference. Sarah clutched the paper to her chest, tears welling up in her eyes. This was about hope, connection, and the incredible capacity for human kindness. "I don't know what to say," Sarah whispered, overwhelmed by Keanu's gesture. Keanu placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to say anything," he assured her. "Just promise me you'll use it if you need to. And remember, every act of kindness has the power to change a life. Today I was able to help you. Tomorrow you might be the one helping someone else. That's how we make the world a little bit better, one day at a time." As they stood there, Sarah felt as if she was on the threshold of a new chapter. The weight of her struggles still existed, but it no longer felt crushing. She was buoyed by the knowledge that she wasn't alone, that there were good people willing to extend a helping hand. Keanu gave her shoulder a final squeeze before stepping back. "Take care of yourself, Sarah," he said warmly. "And remember, this too shall pass. You're stronger than you know." As Keanu turned to leave, Sarah's voice rang out across the store. "Wait!" she called, her voice trembling with emotion. "How can I ever repay you for this?" The Hollywood star paused, his hand resting on the door handle. He turned back slowly, a warm smile spreading across his face. The entire store seemed to hold its breath, waiting for his response. Keanu's eyes twinkled as he considered his words carefully. This moment was about something far more profound than groceries. "You know," Keanu began, his voice soft but carrying to every corner of the hushed store, "there's only one way you can repay me." He took a step closer to Sarah, his gaze never leaving hers. "When you're back on your feet, find someone else who needs help. Be there for them, just like I was here for you today. That's how we change the world, one small act at a time. We lift each other up when we're down. We share what we have, even if it's just a kind word or a helping hand." Sarah nodded, tears streaming down her face. She understood now. This moment was about a chain of kindness that could stretch far beyond this grocery store. Keanu reached into his pocket and pulled out a small piece of paper. He scribbled something quickly and handed it to Sarah. "This is the number of a friend who runs a job placement agency," he explained. "Give her a call. Tell her Keanu sent you. She'll help you get back on your feet." Sarah clutched the paper like a lifeline, her fingers trembling. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "I promise I'll pay it forward. I'll never forget this." Keanu smiled one last time, then turned and walked out of the store. But he left behind so much more than just paid groceries. He left behind hope, inspiration, and a powerful reminder of the impact one person can have. As Sarah watched him disappear from view, she made a silent promise to herself and to the world. She would turn this moment of kindness into a lifetime of giving back. The other shoppers in the store began to stir, as if waking from a dream. But it was clear that something had changed. People were smiling at each other, offering to help carry bags, letting others go ahead in line. One elderly woman approached Sarah, her eyes kind. "I couldn't help overhearing," she said softly. "I run a community garden. You're welcome to take home some fresh vegetables for you and your little one." A young man in a business suit stepped forward. "I work at a local tech company," he offered. "If you send me your resume, I'd be happy to pass it along to our HR department." As the offers of help poured in, Sarah felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Real, tangible hope. She looked down at her sleeping baby and felt a surge of determination. They were going to be okay. More than okay. In that moment, Sarah realized that Keanu's act of kindness had set off a chain reaction. It wasn't just about the groceries or even the job lead. It was about showing people the power they had to make a difference in someone else's life. As she finally left the store, her groceries paid for and her heart full, Sarah knew that this moment would change her life forever. But more than that, she knew it would change the lives of countless others as she paid forward the kindness she had received. Keanu's simple act of kindness sparked a chain reaction of compassion throughout the community. People were inspired to look beyond themselves and see the struggles of those around them. From job opportunities to free babysitting, shoppers proved kindness is contagious. This story reminds us we all have the power to make a difference. It's about noticing someone in need and taking action. Your simple act could be the turning point in someone's day or life. Like planting a seed, each kindness grows into something beautiful. So, what will you do today? Buy a coffee for the person behind you? Help a neighbor with groceries? The choice is yours. What act of kindness will you perform?